The best way to practice something is obviously to play it 10 times in a row absolutely perfectly before moving on to another section of music or speeding it up, right? Not according to Dr. Christine Carter. Dr. Christine Carter is a professor at the Manhattan School of Music who wrote an article on a website called bulletproofmusician.com, link below in the description, which brought up some really interesting points about practicing. Her approach advocates for something called a random practice schedule. Let's say you have 3 different things that you want to practice in one day, and you have an hour and 30 minutes to practice them. The traditional way to approach this practice would be to take each item and work on it for 30 minutes consecutively before moving on to the next item. Using a random practice schedule would be something a little different. Instead of practicing each thing for 30 minutes in a row before moving on to the next item, you would divide them up into much shorter intervals, such as 3 minutes or 5 minutes. Let's call the 3 items A, B, and C. With a random practice schedule, you'd take item A, work on it for 3 minutes, then move on to item B, and then item C, also for 3 minutes each. And you would keep repeating this process until an hour and 30 minutes has passed. The end result would still be 30 minutes practiced on each item. Dr. Carter refers to the traditional way of practicing in larger chunks as blocked practice. According to her article, this random practice schedule approach is much more effective than the block practice schedule. The reason for this being is that when we're working on really complicated motor patterns, such as when practicing guitar or any other instrument, it is harder to execute those motor patterns as soon as we start practicing them, whereas after about 10 minutes or so, it starts getting a lot easier, obviously because we've been doing them over and over. Her assertion, however, is that even though this approach leads to a better result in the practice room as far as feeling more comfortable playing the item, it doesn't lead to the best results in the long term. Some evidence of this can be found in a 1994 study that they did with elite baseball players. In this study, several different baseball players practiced hitting different pitches, and each one of them got the exact same number of repetitions on each pitch. The players were divided into 2 groups. One group was using a random practice schedule, and another group was using a blocked practice schedule. After 12 different practice sessions, the group that was using the random practice schedule actually hit 57% more of the pitches, whereas the ones that used the blocked practice schedule only hit 25% more. So according to that study, the random practice schedule is actually twice as effective as the block practice schedule. Another reason that she claims that it's more effective is because it actually forces you to hold your attention longer on what you're practicing. If you only have 3 minutes to accomplish a task, you're really going to focus for those 3 minutes before moving on to the next item. So after coming across this article, I decided to try out the random practice schedule for myself. So I picked 3 different items to work on, and I used 3-minute intervals to switch between them. The first one was a short economy picking exercise. The second one was a sweep picking arpeggio exercise. And then the third one I would change from day to day. It was usually a fragment of a song that I was working on. After using this practice method for a couple of weeks, I actually did feel like I got some good results from it. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily better than a blocked practice schedule, but I think it's particularly effective if you want to hit a lot of different things in one day. One thing I always find challenging is simply practicing everything I need to every day, which I think is a very valuable thing. It doesn't do you too much good to practice something for 2 hours on one day and then never come back to it for a week. The random practice schedule, or the interval practice schedule, which I think is a better name for it personally, is a great way to help with that. Practicing in these short intervals can actually be similar to doing exercise. In physical exercise, there's a concept that's identical to this called high-intensity interval training. In that context, it's the same. You spend a short amount of time going as hard as you possibly can, super focused and intense, and then you get short rest intervals in between. Obviously, because for physical exercise, you need to rest. Using the interval practice method in conjunction with doing other things like varying rhythms or varying the dynamics can really make it a lot more effective, in my opinion. So with that being said, I want you guys to let me know what you think about the interval practice method, or the random practice method as Dr. Carter calls it. Pick 3 items or as many as you want and practice them all in short intervals, alternating. Let me know what kind of results you guys get from it. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and thumb up the video. And as always, listen, learn, and jam.